I was interviewing a police officer in Arizona, knew a bunch of the guys down there, and I was doing a show, and I asked him about traffic accidents and what percentage of the traffic accidents were caused by people who are on medication. Not alcohol, not marijuana, just medication. And he told me 30%.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt that at all. I mean, look at all the kids today, the children that they got on drugs. I mean, it's ridiculous. Right away, if a kid misbehaves or something's a little different about him, the first thing they do is stick him on some sort of drug, Ritalin or whatever the hell that stuff is.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they say it's going to make your children's teacher happy and they're going to do well in school as long as they're on this drug, and it's the same old lies, just repackaged with new chemicals.
Yep.
Let's talk about the media.
And not even natural chemicals, artificial ones.
Yeah, all patented, monopoly price chemicals. I wanted to ask you about the media now. I know this is a huge topic. You've had just legendary battles with the mainstream media in Minnesota and across the country, but they know to take you seriously now. What has happened to the media? We used to have real investigative journalists back in the 60s and 70s. Today, they seem to be nowhere. What's going on?
Well, because I think that they're all bought and sold and owned by the government. That's all part of government control. We're losing our rights right now. We've lost the Fourth Amendment right of illegal search and seizure. They've blown that thing right out of here. Habeas corpus is gone. They can now arrest you and hold you and not even let you see a lawyer and not even charge you for as long as they want. And so we've got to, and I thought that Barack Obama would bring that stuff back, but he hasn't. And that's what been my big disappointment in him, is the fact that he's letting all this Bush stuff still remain.
Yeah, Patriot Act, for example.
Yeah, they should repeal and get rid of the Patriot Act. It's ridiculous. All it does is take away our freedoms. You know what's interesting about that, too? Remember what George Bush told us why we were attacked? He said they attacked us because of our freedoms.
That's right.
So what is George's method for stopping the attacks? Take away our freedoms.
Yeah, we'll show them.
Yeah, we'll show them we won't have freedom anymore, and then they won't attack us anymore.
Exactly.
Well, I would rather, and I've said this many times, I would rather face the terrorists than lose my freedom.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't want the government trying to protect me against every little thing. Even terrorists. Where are the terrorists? The FDA kills more people than the terrorists.
Yep.
I did the math on that.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you some math. Here's a good one. Did you know in the last 30 years that more people have died in their bathtub than have died from an act of terrorism, including the spike of 9/11? Now I'll have fun with it. So because of that, shouldn't we create the Department of Bathtub Security? And then what we should do is have a color-coded thing where they can tell us which months out of the year most people die in the bathtub, so we'll be more vigilant. And then they could have a bathtub team that could come in your house without a warrant to check and make sure you got all the right safety stuff. Because dying in your bathtub is a higher percentage that'll happen to you than dying at the hands of a terrorist.
Well, the alert level today is orange for your bathtub.
Well, it's always orange. I never see it any different.
You live outside the United States full-time?
No, I don't.
Part-time?
I live 50-50.
Oh, okay.
I live in Minnesota half the year and Mexico the other half.
Do you find it strange when you go back and forth and you come back into the U.S. after being gone for a while? Do you find it odd to hear in the airport, for example, they'll have the security the audio warning messages? Do you feel like you're walking back into a police state sometimes?
Well, not so much when I fly. Where I really see that is, I drive it every year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I see it at the borders driving.
I see.
2 times I've gone into Mexico out of the last 5 years driving. I've never even gotten papers. There's nobody even there.
What?
Yeah. Now, this is going into Mexico.
Yeah.
They're 2 separate gates. You got a gate coming into the U.S., and you got another one that lets you into Mexico. When I've crossed into Mexico, there's been nobody there. I've been down there for 6 months without a paper.
Wow, so you just drove through.
All I need to come back is my passport.
Sure.
To get back in the country. Oh, yeah, no. One time I crossed at Tecate, and it was right away at 6 in the morning when they opened the gate, and the guy was just walking in immigration, the Mexican man, and I pulled up. I said, "Say, can I get my papers?" Do you know what he said to me?
What?
He looked at me and says, get him an Ensenada. Well, I didn't get him at all. I just kept driving. Nobody ever asks you for them down there. They don't care. All they care is that you bring some dollars with you and change them into pesos and spend some money.
Yeah. I know that drill.
But yet, when I come back into the United States, oh my God, it's like coming into East Berlin now.
Yeah. But even, don't they recognize
Wait, I'll tell you a good story. I crossed a couple years ago with my RV, and they searched it, and they knew who I was. They knew that I was a former governor.
Yeah.
They searched my RV, and what do you think they confiscated from me and would not let me bring across the border?
Medicine.
Nope.
I don't know.
Here's Homeland Security at its finest. You're wrong. Guess again. I'll tell you. You know what they took? My dog's dog food.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No.
Why?
Because I'm driving back to the U.S., so it only takes about 6 days, so I only bring a 6-day supply, and I had it in an open plastic bag under the counter sink. Well, because it wasn't in its original container, they confiscated it. And I said, well, what's my dog supposed to eat now? I have a very special dog. I don't like buying him gravy train, from the crappy stores. I feed him specific food, a specific dog food, which I bought. I told these guys, I purchased this in Minnesota. I'm giving you my word of honor as a governor. They wouldn't hear of it.
What?
They wouldn't hear of it.
They
took it from me, so I had to drive to a truck stop and buy my dog this crappy dog food. And I could have understood it had I had 5 or 40-pound bags. My dog was the only dog that would eat this food. There was only enough for him, and they took it.
This is the way that America treats not only its own citizens, but its own civil servants.
I can do you better than that one. You want the worst of all?
Yeah.
I got wanded when I was governor.
By who and where?
Minneapolis Airport. I had to travel quickly to California, and it was right after 9/11, and it was a one-way ticket. We bought it at the spur of the moment, so it kicked me out.
Oh, my.
And so they're wanding me, and I turned to the kid, and I said, when does common sense enter into this? And he goes, well, what do you mean, sir? And I said, well, when's the last time a seated governor attempted to hijack a plane? Well, he had a good answer. He said, well, we can't make exceptions, sir. And I said, okay, I understand that, but I said, I'll ask you again when common sense enters in. And he goes, what now? I said, well, you see the 2 guys over there in the suits waiting for me? He goes, yeah. I said, those are my security. They're both carrying 9mm, and they're getting on the plane with me. I'm their boss. If I order them to give me their gun, they have to do it. I said, so I'm getting on the plane with 2 guys carrying guns, and you're wanding me.
Right.
Now, how ridiculous was that?
Yeah, well...
And yet, get this, when I was going to California, this is Minnesota. I get out to California, the California Highway Patrol picks me up at the plane before it even gets to the gate, they unload me off, and then when I came back later to come home, I didn't even go through the terminal. California drove me right out onto the tarmac and loaded me up the side of the plane before anybody else even got on.
Wow. And of course,
I'm not even the governor of California.
Exactly. Well, now, of course, they've got the full body scanners going on. 11 airports in the U.S. going to start scanning everybody.
Yep. There go. You're right.
Showing your naked image. But again, this is...
Well, I'll give you another one. I had my hip replaced. I had the new resurfacing done where they resurface your hip with carbon titanium steel.
Yeah.
So I set the beepers off now every time. Every time. I get wanded every time now. I have to stand there and go through that rigmarole. Well, one day I'm there, and there's 3 of us waiting. So it entered my head, and I turned to the other 2 guys, and I said, well, it's my right hip. The other guy goes, it's my left hip, and the other guy goes, it's my left knee. So the only thing they're truly finding out is who's had prosthesis surgery.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of what it is now, is to demean people. I mean, they're going to be, with the full body scanners, they're going to be able to tell who's had a mastectomy, for example.
Yeah.
Who has prosthetic limbs. I mean, this is not about security, as you well know. They can sneak, people can sneak bombs onto planes. The FAA does it every few years, just testing their own security.
Yeah. Oh, no. This stuff goes way beyond security, and this country and its people better wake up to it.
That's the last question here. Well, the last subject area I wanted to ask you is how do we wake people up to this? I mean, you're doing a great job, but how do we wake up millions more?
I don't know. We just got to be vigilant. We got to keep talking about it. You can't shut up. You got to talk about it and make people think and make them get out of their shells and realize that, you have to be diligent to have your freedom. And you have to, I'm a great believer that you hold your government's feet to the fire. If you do that, you'll get good government. If you don't do that, you're going to get bad government. And I guess it's going to, probably it'll have to take about a day of martial law before anybody wakes up, and by then it could be too late.
It may very well be too late. Whatever happened to the government, they're supposed to be afraid of the people because the people are in charge and the people grant freedom or rights to the government.
No, they're not. The government is the main entity now.
Yeah.
The people are secondary to the government now.
One thing I noticed living in South America that you may relate to from Mexico is that in South America, people aren't afraid to protest. They'll fill the streets with signs and chanting and marching, and they'll take a guy and throw him out of office physically. They'll just literally carry him out of office and throw him. In America, people wouldn't dream of it anymore. They're afraid to protest.
Well, not ever since Vietnam. To me, although there were a lot of protests over the Iraq War. It's just our mainstream media wouldn't cover them. There were some very big protests over Iraq, but the mainstream media just ignored it, and that way the general public had no idea. In fact, where there was real protest over in Iraq was in Europe. Huge protests in Europe.
Yeah, but again, no big coverage from the media.
No, well, because the media, to me, is controlled by the government here now. It isn't the free media that it used to be.
No, not at all. What do you think about...
Well, you got to remember, all the media is owned by like 3 conglomerates now.
Yeah.
They own the entire mainstream media, so the government only has to deal with 2 or 3 entities to control the entire media.
Where do you get your information then? What do you consider a good source?
The Internet.
Yeah, I second that.
No, I mean, there's a lot of crap on the Internet, and you can't believe everything on the Internet, certainly. But at least they still haven't figured out a way to stop it yet. But believe me, they're working on it.
Yeah, they are. They're going to try to make it so you can't post anonymously. You have to have your digital fingerprint goes with every web page that you upload, things like that.
Oh yeah, see, you're going to watch them slowly erode the freedoms of the Internet until they get control of it. See, the Internet is the wild cowboy right now. That's the one that that's on the loose right now, disturbs the government the most, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot has come out. I mean, in fact, I think even the success of your show is due in part to the Internet supporting the popularity of the show itself. I mean, there's a lot of buzz.
I fully agree. That's why we kind of gear it towards the Internet in its own way.
Yeah. Well, you've been able to bridge this though. You can get onto Larry King live. I mean, you get invited to the mainstream media, and you're very popular on the Internet.
Not anymore. Fox News won't even talk to me about this book.
That's hard to believe. I mean, why?
Nope.
Why wouldn't they?
O'Reilly, Hannity, and Glenn Beck all passed on having me on the show.
Wow. Well, they're going to regret that because I think this book, American Conspiracies, is going to do extremely well, Governor Ventura.
Well, I just hope all I ask people to do is sit down with an open mind and read it, and remember this. It is not my imagination. I'm not trying to be Vince Flynn or Tom Clancy or any of them. Everything in this book is based upon documentation, and a great deal of that documentation comes right from our own government.
I'm really glad you're including all that in the book because that's what people ask for. They want to see citations or copies of documents whenever possible, and even then, many times they still don't believe what they're reading.
Yep. Hopefully, eventually, we'll take our country back, I hope.
I hope so, too. I want to thank you so much, Governor, for joining us today. And just to remind those listening, once again, the book is called American Conspiracies. You can find it in booksellers everywhere. Check out Jesse Ventura's show, Conspiracy Theory, which will have new episodes coming out throughout 2010 and I think into 2011, correct?
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, and I really enjoyed talking.
Okay, no problem. All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.